Australia. If there's one problem we can all agree we have, it's that we're too attractive a destination for gross foreigners. So now there's a suggestion that any new migrants who apply for permanent residency should have to take a test on Australian values, which for the next 4 minutes will be represented by Ollie, Sid and Millie. And while a yellow echidna is difficult to understand, the concept of exactly what Australian values are is actually even harder. I mean, it's such a loose concept that basically everyone can have a different understanding. I mean, think of Australian values as like Donnie Darko, right? I mean, everybody's got a different understanding of what it means, but the people who go on about it tend to be total pricks. But if we're trying to understand what Australian values are, surely the best place to start would be with Citizenship Minister Alan Tudge, as seen here in the throes of an explosive orgasm. And Alan Tudge set up his version of Australian values in a recent speech in the UK. The UK, of course, being the obvious home for a speech about Australian values. But anyway, Tudge listed Australian values as freedom of speech and worship, equality between the sexes, democracy and the rule of law, a fair go for all, the taking of individual responsibility. But it just so happens that some would say, promising young comedian has actually already explained how freedom of religion isn't under threat in this country and that equality between the sexes is not a principle adhered to by the Liberal Party itself, let alone the rest of the country. I guess he must not be watching. I suppose Dr. Doctor might be more his speed. Although to be fair, people need to know why Dr. Knight's leaving and where Penny will land on those fateful decisions about her love life. Wait, if that's going on now, what am I doing here? Anyway, other than that, Tudge said democracy was an Australian value. Democracy. I think the Greeks that Alan Tudge definitely called WOG at high school would have a pretty serious problem with Tudge claiming democracy as an Australian value. I think the Greeks have a bit of a trademark on that one. You know, like would Tudge seriously say, oh, you want to try some Australian food? Well, here, try this tzatziki and pita bread. It's a traditional Australian dish. But you know, maybe Australians really do love democracy. Let's ask one, shall we?
Yeah, I don't even know who I voted for.
You don't know who you voted for? So
people like me shouldn't even be allowed to vote. If you don't know who you're voting for...
Yeah. But you just tick some boxes.
Pretty much.
Just down the line,
my name,
donkey vote.
I'd like to know who and whatnot, but yeah, got enough things in my own world to go on.
Inspiring stuff. Okay, so maybe we're not as big on this whole democracy idea as Alan thinks we are, but that's just because he's a politician. He's meant to be out of touch. Anyway, what's next? What's next? Freedom of speech. That's right. And you know what? Let's start with a speech from alt-right reprobate, which was actually the original name for Deep Blue something. Alt-right reprobate Lauren Southern, who used a speech in Brisbane to make a joke about Melbourne.
Begging with God, God, if I can find 10 good people in Sodom and Gomorrah, please do not nuke Melbourne.
Now look, we all have jokes, you know, that are a bit iffy or that don't land sometimes. I mean, I won't say that the audience didn't like my joke about the British version of Jack Irish being Johnny English, but I will say that they didn't get it. But whatever, right? Whatever. A person makes an off joke, that's fine, right? So maybe Tudge is right, and we do love free speech in this country.
Cricket Australia has attracted international headlines for sacking its head of government relations in Tasmania, she says, because she spoke up critically about the state's abortion laws.
Okay, that's just one example though. I mean, you know, we still have robust debates in this country where ABC reporters with foreign-sounding names have their personal phone numbers posted to Facebook so that random assholes can send death threats and abuse to their mobile number because the reporter tweeted something about plastic bags. Oh, fuck. Okay. So free speech in this country seemingly is simple. Nuking lefties, fine. Criticising restrictive abortion laws or plastic bag usage, not fine. And actually, just on plastic bags, I think Australia might have to let go of any claim to being a no-worries kind of country when a long-warned-about ban on single-use plastic bags at just 2 supermarkets led a man to walk up behind a woman and put his hands around her throat. Oh yeah, right, because you know, it starts with plastic bags, doesn't it? It starts here, then pretty soon you'll ban my Facebook videos from the basement and then it's just a hop, skip and a jump to agrarian socialism and there'll be blood on your hands. Then lastly, there's Tudge's the fair go and individual responsibility. And for starters, I don't think anyone who follows up the fair go with individual responsibility really gets what the fair go was meant to be about. Because normally, when politicians like our Prime Minister talk about the fair go, they say things like, but we also have a culture of fair go, of looking after each other. Not, we also have a culture of a fair go. So help yourself, you lazy bum. I said good day. The fair go and individual responsibility go about as well together as a horse and marriage, or say, the fair go and whoever that guy was that oversaw a system that automatically sent 20,000 debt notices a week to welfare recipients who often never received them, then demanded repayment of Centrelink debts that were never owed, forcing people through a torturous process, often spending hours of their life engaging with Centrelink just to avoid paying a debt they never actually owed in the first place. Who was the guy that oversaw that scheme, by the way? Oh, right. Alan Tudge, seen here on the day of his daughter's wedding. So maybe these Australian values aren't actually something we live and die by. But hey, even if they are, I think I've spotted another pretty major problem with this whole values test, and that is you can't really teach values through a test. I mean, it's one thing to test someone's English, and I mean the fact that new migrants are taking the test in English should be a pretty good indication one way or the other. But it's another thing entirely to hand new migrants Plato's Republic and then say, do you agree? Because that doesn't tell you anything. Because even if they say yes, that's only really proof they know how to pass the test. That's like when a driving instructor asks if you'll obey the road rules, or when a first date asks me what I do, and I know I could say comedian, but I know the right answer is, I'm just taking a break from the law right now. And that's exactly what will happen. Any new migrant can tell Alan Tudge, seen here as Alan Tudgerigar in his disastrous one-man paean to Tony Abbott, Tudgy Smuggler. Any new migrant can tell Alan Tudge what he wants to hear. Although, if I was a new migrant, I'm not sure I could bear the look on his face when he found out I'd lied. Yeah, that look. We'll be right back.